Hello everyone. Welcome back. Today, we are stepping into the war room of Indian governance. We are looking at the architects of democracy. We often talk about the union government and state governments as if they are separate countries, but they are actually part of a massive, complex federal balancing act. Today, we'll navigate the friction, the fiscal revolutions like GST, and the future of how India stays together. Let's dive into the blueprint of our nation. In law, we often debate, is India truly federal? There's an academic divide here. Casey were famously called India quasi-federal. Why? Because of structural centralization like residuary powers, Article 248, emergency provisions, and Ghana appointments. On the other side, Granville Austin called it cooperative federalism. He argued it's a pluralist mosaic held together by a constitutional mandate and protected by an independent judiciary. Think of it as a tug of war where the ropes are the law and the shields are the courts. Now, how do we decide who does what? We look at the seventh schedule. The Union list 100 subjects. These are big picture items like defense, monetary policy, railways, and foreign affairs. The state list 61 subjects. These are local matters like public order, police, agriculture, and public health. The concurrent list 52 subjects. Here, both can play education, criminal law, and social welfare. If there is a conflict in the concurrent list, union law prevails. It's the ultimate trump card. Article 356 is the emergency button. It's meant to be a measure of last resort. Normalcy, states govern independently. Warning, a formal warning to an errant state. Breakdown, failure of constitutional machinery. In the landmark case of S.R. Bommai vs. Union of India 1994, the Supreme Court ruled that states are not mere agents of the Union. This case imposed strict judicial review and ensured an assembly cannot be dissolved before parliamentary approval. India's federalism has evolved through three stages. Cooperative federalism, post-independence, driven by one-party dominance. Key institutions, Planning Commission. Competitive federalism, post-1990s liberalization and the 2015 shift to Niti Aayog. States now compete for FDI, foreign direct investment, using performance indices. Coercive federalism, a contemporary trend where we see centralized schemes and the governor's office being used more assertively. This is an executive-driven, hierarchical coordination. To stop the fighting, we have arenas of dialogue. Interstate Council Article 263, the apex body for resolving constitutional conflicts. Zonal councils, advisory platforms to foster administrative coordination and regional irritants. Niti Aayog, formed in 2015, it drives Team India governance through competitive benchmarking. 2017 saw a financial revolution. We moved from a fragmented system to a unified one. Pre-2017, taxation was origin-based, favoring manufacturing states like Maharashtra or Tamil Nadu. States had high autonomy over indirect tax rates. Post-2017, GST is destination-based, favoring consumption states like Bihar or UP. Taxes are now subsumed into CGST, SGST, and IGST under Article 246A. This represents shared sovereignty. States traded their individual autonomy for a seat at the consensus table. Every revolution has a cost. Consumption hubs, winners states like UP gained revenue because of large populations consuming goods. Manufacturing hubs, losers states like Maharashtra lost massive revenues from point of production taxes like octroi. To fix this, the government introduced the GST compensation cess 2017 to 2022 to guarantee 14% revenue growth. But during COVID-19, delayed payouts caused severe center-state friction. The GST Council is a mathematical masterpiece of mandatory cooperation. The center holds 33.3% of the weight. The states hold 66.7%. To pass a policy, you need 75%. This means the center has a veto, but it cannot pass anything alone. The states hold the majority but must secure the center's agreement. It is a locked embrace of cooperative federalism. When the center gets too arbitrary, the judiciary steps in. Keswananda Bharti cemented federalism as part of the basic structure, meaning it's immune from amendment. S.R. Bommai curbed the misuse of Article 356. Mohit Minerals 2022 clarified that GST Council recommendations are not legally binding on states, they are a guide for consensus. State of Punjab 2024 ruled that governors cannot indefinitely withhold assent to bills. How do we make it better? We synthesize the Sarkaria and Panchi commissions. The governor's office should be an eminent figure from outside the state, detached from active politics, with a secure 5-year tenure. Article 355 and 356 localize emergency provisions. Instead of dismissing a whole state, only bring troubled areas under central jurisdiction. The Interstate Council elevated from an ad hoc group to a permanently constituted apex body. In conclusion, Indian federalism isn't a fixed switch, it's a dynamic slider. We operate in 3 modes simultaneously, cooperating on national crises, competing for business, and sometimes coercing through tied grants and agencies. It adapts to the political economy of the era. Federalism's survival depends less on the text of the Constitution and more on the political statesmanship that animates it. Our goal is always Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, uplifting the last person through mutual trust. Thanks for watching this deep dive into the architects of democracy. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts on center-state relations below. See you next time.